Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're kind of bypassing the usual intro and heading straight into the real nerve center of global infrastructure projects.
Yeah, we've got this really detailed interview guide. It's for a planning engineer role, someone with like 15 years deep in oil and gas, mega project.
Exactly, multi-billion-dollar stuff. So our mission today, give you that shortcut, that inside track to understanding how these massive projects get planned and executed.
And we're focusing squarely on Primavera P6. That's the enterprise software, the backbone, really, for managing this kind of mind-boggling complexity.
You hear oil and gas, mega infrastructure. You're talking about a scale that honestly is hard to even wrap your head around. So let's set the stage. What is Primavera P6 and why is it the go-to for these huge, complex jobs?
Well, it's Oracle's enterprise-level system. Think portfolio management. It's not just about scheduling tasks.
Right. It's bigger than just the to-do list.
Much bigger. You're integrating scheduling, yes, but also resource allocation, cost management, risk analysis, progress tracking, all interconnected.
Okay, so how does it compare to something more familiar like, say, Microsoft Project?
The scale is just fundamentally different. If MS Project is maybe for building a very detailed, complex, custom house.
One house.
One house, right?
Yep.
P6 is designed for planning and managing the construction of, well, an entire industrial park, or maybe even a small city, all at once.
Wow.
Yeah, it handles multiple projects simultaneously, schedules with easily over 100,000 activities. You've got multiple users in there, updating things in real time.
So it needs a really robust structure. Consumer software just can't handle that.
Exactly. That kind of complexity demands a certain rigidity, a strong framework.
Okay, that scale makes sense. Let's unpack that structure then.
Yes.
If we're building this massive industrial complex digitally, you need like a perfect filing system. What are those core hierarchical structures holding it all together in P6?
Right. There are three main acronyms you absolutely need to know. They're sort of the architectural pillars.
Okay.
First up is the work breakdown structure, the WBS.
WBS, got it.
Think of it like the project's anatomy. It's that hierarchical breakdown of the total scope of work into smaller, more manageable chunks or packages.
So breaking the big job into little jobs.
Exactly. It's the essential first step. It organizes every activity, and crucially, it helps assign responsibility for each specific piece of work.
Okay, so WBS is the blueprint for the thing we're building. But, a big company might be building 10 different things simultaneously. A refinery here, a pipeline there.
Precisely. And that's where the enterprise project structure, or EPS, comes in.
EPS, okay.
The EPS sits right at the top. It's the organizational structure for all the projects across the entire company. Think of it as the filing cabinet for all your different project folders. It's for high-level reporting, management oversight.
So it dictates where this project fits within the whole company's portfolio.
Exactly. And then you need to connect the people to the work. That's the organizational breakdown structure, the OBS.
The OBS.
The OBS maps the company's own management hierarchy. Who reports to whom directly onto the WBS elements or even specific activities.
So you know exactly which manager or team is responsible for which part of the WBS?
Precisely. It ensures every single piece of work has a clear owner. You're linking the scope, WBS, the corporate structure, EPS, and the management responsibility, OBS, all together.
That sounds like a really tight system, planning architecture, like you said. Now, sticking with structure, the source mentioned that tasks themselves aren't all the same in P6. There are different activity types.
Yes, various types define how durations or resources get calculated. You have task-dependent, resource-dependent, milestones. But one specialized type worth highlighting is level of effort, or LOE.
LOE. Okay, what's that?
So standard activities usually result in a tangible deliverable, right? Build a wall, write a report. LOE activities are different. They represent ongoing support work.
Like overhead.
Sort of, yeah. Think project management itself or safety supervision, maybe quality assurance. These tasks don't produce a single thing, but are necessary for other work to happen. Their duration is usually linked to the duration of the activities they support.
So they stretch across other tasks.
Exactly. They exist as long as the work they're supporting is happening.
And with these huge structures, WBS, EPS, thousands of activities just navigating must be tough. The source really emphasized custom coding structures. Why add more codes if you already have WBS?
Good question. Because even with a detailed WBS, if you have 100,000 activities, the WBS level might still be too broad for really specific analysis or reporting.
Okay.
Activity codes are like the planner's superpower for filtering. You create user-defined codes to categorize activities by, say, vendor or geographical area, or maybe a specific engineering discipline like electrical or mechanical, or even procurement status.
So you can quickly slice and dice the data.
Instantly, it makes filtering, sorting, grouping, and generating targeted reports incredibly efficient. It's absolutely necessary when you're dealing with that volume of data.
Okay, this is where, for me, it gets really interesting. The structure's built, the codes are assigned. Now the clock starts ticking. How on earth do you figure out the absolute shortest time it'll take to finish this monster project?
That's the magic or maybe the science of the critical path method. CPM.
CPM. Heard of it, but break it down.
It's a scheduling technique, fundamentally. It calculates the longest path of dependent activities through the entire project network, from the very start to the very finish.
The longest path determines the shortest time. That sounds backwards.
It does, but think about it. That longest sequence represents the chain of tasks where there's zero slack. Any delay to any activity on that specific path.
Directly pushes out the project's end date.
Exactly. It defines the minimum possible duration for the entire project. It's the backbone of your timeline.
And linked tightly to the critical path is this idea of float, which sounds flexible, but maybe dangerous.
It can be both. Float is basically scheduling flexibility. The source mentions 3 key types you need to grasp.
Okay, what are they?
The first 2 give you some breathing room. Total float is the amount of time an activity can be delayed without delaying the entire project's final completion date. It's your overall buffer on that task.
Okay, that's useful.
Then there's free float. This is a bit more constrained. It's the amount of time an activity can be delayed without delaying its immediate successor activity. It's a more localized buffer.
Right. Doesn't impact the next guy in line.
Correct.
Right.
But then
Okay.
there's the one you really watch out for, negative float.
Negative float. That sounds bad.
It is bad. It's the big red flag. It tells you the project is already projected to finish later than some imposed deadline or constraint, maybe a contractual date.
So you're already behind schedule before you've even finished, according to the plan.
Precisely. If you see negative float, alarms should be going off. You're potentially in breach of contract, and you need to take immediate corrective action.
Okay, negative float is the danger zone. Now, these schedules, the critical path, the float, it all hinges on how activities are linked together, the dependencies.
Absolutely. The logic is everything. There are 4 primary relationship types.
Right, for classic.
Yeah, the main one is finish to start, FS. Task B can't start until task A finishes. Most common.
Okay.
Then you have start to start, SS. Task B can start once task A starts. Finish to finish, FF. Task B can't finish until task A finishes. And the less common one, start to finish, SF. Task B can't finish until task A starts.
Got it. FS, SS, FF, SF. But you can fine-tune these relationships with lags and leads.
Exactly. Use lags and leads to add timing nuances. A lag introduces waiting time.
Like letting concrete cure.
Perfect example. Task A finishes pouring concrete, then there's a 2-day lag curing time, then task B starts building on it. That lag is positive time.
Okay. And a lead.
A lead is the opposite. It allows for overlap. It's essentially negative lag. Maybe you can start task B installing interior wiring before task A finishing the roof is fully complete. That overlap period is the lead time.
So it accelerates the schedule slightly by overlapping things.
Correct. It lets you pull the successor activity forward.
Now, all this calculation, critical paths, floats, lags, it's incredibly complex, but it's kind of meaningless if you don't have a fixed point of comparison, right? What's the role of the baseline?
The baseline is fundamental. Absolutely critical. It's the official approved version of the project plan at a specific point in time.
The snapshot.
The snapshot, exactly. It captures the agreed upon scope, the planned schedule dates, and the budget costs. It becomes the yardstick against which you measure actual performance.
So you constantly compare where you are versus where you plan to be in the baseline.
Constantly. You track variances. Are we ahead or behind schedule? Over or under budget? You have to maintain that baseline, maybe create new ones if there are major approved changes. But you never just overwrite the original. It's your contractual reference point.
Okay, switching gears slightly from time to, well, the things that do the work. Resources, people, equipment, managing thousands of workers, specialized machinery. How does P6 stop you from scheduling, say, one critical crane for 3 different jobs at the same time?
That's precisely the job of resource leveling.
Leveling.
It's the process P6 uses to resolve resource conflicts or overallocations.
Yeah.
So if your schedule, based purely on logic, demands that single crucial welding crew in 5 different places during the same week.
Which is impossible.
Right, impossible. Leveling automatically adjusts the start and finish dates of some of those activities, usually the ones with more float, the less critical ones to smooth out the demand for that crew. It tries to balance the workload while impacting the project deadline as little as possible.
So it shuffles tasks around based on resource availability, not just logic.
Exactly. It respects the resource limits.
And part of that resource availability is defined by calendars, right? Seems simple, but the source implied they can get quite detailed in P6.
They can be, yes. Calendars define working days, non-working days, holidays, shift patterns, hours per day, all of that.
Standard stuff.
But it's not just one global calendar.
Mhm.
You can have project-specific calendars, maybe reflecting local holidays, and, critically, you can have resource-specific calendars.
Ah, so that expensive drilling rig might have its own maintenance schedule.
Precisely. Or maybe a specific engineering team works a 4-day week. P6 uses these specific calendars when calculating activity durations that depend on those resources. It ensures the time estimate is based on actual working availability.
That makes sense for accuracy.
Yeah.
And that leads into resource curves. What are those about? How do they help?
Resource curves define how a resource's effort is distributed over the duration of an activity.
It's not always just flat, even work.
Rarely. Is the work uniform, like, say, a security guard on duty for 8 hours straight? That's a flat curve. Or is it front-loaded, where maybe 80% of the engineering hours happen in the first third of the activity's duration?
Like design work being heavy up front.
Exactly. Or backloaded, maybe for testing and commissioning.
Hmm.
P6 lets you model these different distribution patterns, bell-shaped, trapezoidal, etc.
And why is that important?
It's vital for accurate cash flow forecasting, knowing when you'll actually spend the money. And for resource planning, knowing the peak demand periods, not just the total hours.
And this links to another distinction the source mentioned, resource-driven versus activity-driven schedules. What's the difference there?
This is key. In an activity-driven schedule, the duration is fixed based on the task itself. Say this takes 10 days. The resources assigned don't change that duration in the calculation. But in a resource-driven schedule, the duration is calculated based on the work effort and the availability of the assigned resources. If an activity requires 80 hours of work, and you assign one person working 8 hours a day, the duration is 10 days. Assign 2 people, the duration might drop to 5 days, assuming P6 knows it's resource-driven.
So resource availability actually dictates the timeline for those specific tasks.
Correct. It's crucial for activities where the amount of resource directly impacts how long it takes.
Okay, let's pull back to the bigger picture again. We've got time, we've got cost, we've got scope, resources. How do we tie all that together to get a single, clear picture of project health? Are we winning or losing?
Now you're talking about earned value management, EVM.
EVM, heard this acronym a lot. Sounds important.
It is. It's really considered the gold standard for performance measurement because it brilliantly integrates those 3 critical constraints: scope, schedule, and cost.
Okay, how does it work? The source mentioned 3 key metrics, PV, EV, AC.
That's right. Those are the foundations. Planned value, PV, is the budgeted cost for the work scheduled to be done by a certain point in time. Where should you be?
Okay, the plan.
Earned value, EV, is the budgeted cost of the work actually completed by that same point in time. What did you actually get done, valued at your planned rate?
Right, the value of the completed work.
And actual cost, AC, is simply the real amount of money spent to achieve that completed work. What did it really cost you?
PV, EV, AC. Planned, earned, actual. So how does the planner use these 3 numbers to tell if things are going well?
By calculating performance indices, these ratios give you instant actionable intelligence, 2 main ones, SPI and CPI.
Okay.
The Schedule Performance Index, SPI, is EV divided by PV, EV/PV. It tells you how efficiently you're progressing compared to the plan.
So if SPI is 1, you're right on schedule.
Exactly. If SPI is less than 1, say it's 0.8, it means you've only accomplished 80% of the work you plan to do by now. You're behind schedule.
And greater than 1 means ahead of schedule. Got it. What's CPI?
Cost Performance Index, CPI, is EV divided by AC, EV/KC. This measures your cost efficiency. How much value are you getting for the money spent?
Same logic. CPI of 1 is on budget.
Right. If CPI is less than 1, say 0.9, it means you're only getting 90 cents worth of completed work for every dollar you've actually spent. You've got a cost overrun.
And over 1 means you're under budget. Simple, but powerful.
Very powerful. And these metrics are often visualized, right? That leads to the famous S-curve.
Ah, yes, the S-curve. You see it in reports all the time.
Exactly. It plots cumulative data, usually cost or man-hours over time. You typically see 3 curves. The planned curve, your baseline PV, the actual cost curve, AC, and the earned value curve, EV.
And you can just see the gaps immediately.
Instantly, are the actuals and earned value lines tracking below the planned line? You're likely behind schedule and potentially over budget. It gives stakeholders a really clear visual snapshot of performance trends.
Okay, so EVM tells us we're in trouble. Maybe SPI is low, CPI is low, maybe we even have that dreaded negative float we talked about. We need to do something. What are the main ways to get a project back on track, according to the source? It mentioned schedule compression.
Yes, when you're behind, you often need to compress the schedule. The two main techniques are crashing and fast tracking.
Crashing and fast tracking. Okay, what's the difference?
Crashing is basically throwing more resources at activities on the critical path to shorten their duration.
Buying time with money, essentially.
That's a good way to put it. You might authorize overtime, bring in extra crews or equipment. It usually increases cost, but it shortens the critical path.
And fast tracking.
Fast tracking is about rearranging the logic. You take activities or phases that were originally planned to run in sequence, and you make them overlap or run in parallel.
So you start the next step before the previous one is completely finished.
Right? It doesn't usually add direct cost, like crashing, but it definitely increases risk. You're messing with the planned sequence, which could lead to rework or coordination problems.
High risk, high reward, maybe. Now, what about tackling that negative float directly? If the schedule already shows you're finishing late, what are the options?
Well, since negative flow means you're violating a constraint, you need serious intervention. You'd look at resequencing work. Can we change the logic? You'd definitely consider crashing critical activities.
Throw money at it.
Sometimes you have to. You'd also look hard at resource allocation. But often, a key step is engaging with the stakeholders, the client maybe, and formally negotiating. Can the deadline be moved? Can the scope be adjusted?
So technical fixes and potentially difficult conversations.
Often both, yeah.
Let's make this concrete. The guide had a scenario.
Yeah.
Late material delivery. Classic problem. What does the planner do step by step?
Okay, first, panic briefly.
No kidding.
First, you need to get it to the P6 schedule immediately. Identify all the activities that depend on that late material.
Trace the impact downstream.
Exactly. Then you update the actual delivery date or the expected date in the schedule. Reschedule the entire project, hit F9, or run the scheduler.
See what the damage is.
See the damage. Check if the critical path has now shifted. Has the negative float increased? What's the new projected finish date?
Okay, you know how bad it is. Then what?
Then you start mitigation. Can we fast track some other sequence of work while we wait for the material? Can the crew that was supposed to install it be reallocated temporarily to something else useful? You analyze options and update the plan.
So assess, reschedule, analyze, mitigate.
That's the loop.
This control isn't just about time, though. Scope and cost are just as critical. What happens if the client suddenly requests significant scope change midway through? How does P6 handle that?
First step is to analyze the impact, of course. But assuming it's approved, you need to incorporate that new scope properly. That means updating the WBS, adding new activities, assigning resources, estimating costs and durations for the new work.
Okay, update the plan.
Yes, but here's the absolutely crucial part. Once the change is formally approved by the client, you must re-baseline the project.
Create a new baseline reflecting the new scope.
Exactly. If you just add the work to the current schedule without creating a new approved baseline, you lose your ability to accurately measure performance against the new agreed-upon plan. Your variance calculations become meaningless for the changed scope.
So change control and rebaselining go hand in hand.
Absolutely critical discipline.
And what about cost overruns? You see your CPI is tanking. What's the process there?
That requires some digging. You need to perform cost variance analysis. Use P6 reports and filters to pinpoint where the overruns are happening, which WBS elements, which activities, which resources.
Find the source of the bleeding?
Precisely. Are resource rates higher than planned? Is productivity lower? Are material costs up? Once you identify the root causes, you propose corrective actions. Maybe improve efficiency, maybe look for cheaper alternatives, or in some cases, you might need to go back to the client and discuss scope adjustments if the budget is fixed.
Okay, makes sense. Now, managing all this data, thousands of activities, constant updates, changes, data integrity must be a huge concern. How does a planner even begin to audit or ensure the quality of a massive P6 schedule?
You have to be systematic. Regular audits are key. You use filters extensively to check for common issues like activities with missing logic or incorrect relationships or maybe constraints that shouldn't be there.
Spot checking using filters.
Yes, and you also use tools like global change. This is powerful. It lets you make bulk modifications based on specific criteria. For instance, you could find all activities assigned to a certain contractor and add vendor X to their description field automatically. Helps maintain consistency.
Bulk updates. And the source mentioned a specific tool, Claim Digger. Sounds intense.
It is pretty specialized. Think of it like a forensic comparison tool for schedules. Yeah, Claim Digger is specifically designed to compare two versions of a project file, say, the current schedule versus a previous baseline, or maybe this month's update versus last month's. It generates a detailed report highlighting every single difference. Changes to dates, durations, logic, costs, codes, anything.
So it's perfect for tracking exactly what changed, when, and maybe even by whom.
Exactly. It provides that detailed audit trail, which is often crucial if you get into disputes or need to justify changes, hence the claim part of the name.
Essential for accountability.
Yeah.
And once the data is vetted and clean, how do you share it?
P6 allows data export in various formats. The most common are XER, which is Primavera's native format, and XML. You can also export to Excel, of course, for easier sharing with stakeholders who might not have P6 or for further analysis.
So you can get the data out to the people who need it.
Right, for reporting, integration with other corporate systems, whatever's needed.
So let's synthesize this. We've gone through structure, scheduling, control, mitigation. At the end of the day, what is the ultimate role of this planning engineer, the person wielding this complex tool? It's clearly more than just data entry.
Oh, absolutely. The planning engineer is really the central nervous system for the project's timeline and budget. They develop the initial plan, yes, but then they constantly monitor progress, manage resources, identify risks before they happen.
The crystal ball gazer.
Kind of. They perform ongoing analysis, run what-if scenarios, coordinate between the different execution teams, engineering, procurement, construction to ensure everyone is working off the same, accurate playbook. They're the guardian of the schedule and the budget. Their job is foresight and control.
Preventing chaos, essentially.
That's a big part of it, yes.
And given that huge responsibility, the source was pretty clear about common mistakes to avoid. What are the big pitfalls even experienced planners need to watch out for in P6?
The guide highlighted 4 critical ones. They sound technical, but they can sink a project.
Okay, lay them out.
First, not maintaining updated baselines. We talked about this. If you don't manage change properly and rebaseline when needed, your performance measurement is useless.
Got it. Baseline discipline.
Second, excessive use of constraints. Putting hard date constraints on too many activities overrides the network logic you carefully built. It can hide the true critical path and make the schedule fragile and unrealistic.
Let the logic drive, not force dates everywhere.
Exactly. Third, ignoring resource calendars. If you don't use accurate calendars reflecting actual availability, your resource leveling won't work and your duration estimates will be wrong. Leads straight to overallocation.
Garbage in, garbage out on availability.
Pretty much. And finally, number 4, not validating the schedule logic regularly. Connections get broken, relationships might be entered incorrectly. You have to constantly check that the dependencies make sense and that the critical path calculation is actually valid.
Constant vigilance on the fundamentals.
You got it. Those 4 are killers if you neglect them.
Okay, it feels like this entire P6 universe is built on super rigid logic, very clear structures, everything measurable, quantifiable, control, control, control. And yet the source ends with this one concept that seems almost philosophical, the open-ended activity. What was that about?
Yeah, that was an interesting curveball at the end. It raises a point about maybe the limits of the system or the mindset needed beyond the tool.
How did the source define it?
It defined an open-ended activity not by its deliverable, but as a task or maybe a problem that's focused more on the process of exploration rather than a single predefined outcome. The key characteristic was that it doesn't have one single correct answer.
Huh. So the opposite of a typical P6 task, which has a clear start, finish, and deliverable.
Right. Think maybe complex problem solving or root cause analysis for a totally unexpected issue, or maybe exploring innovative solutions. Things where the path isn't clear from the start.
So perhaps that's the final takeaway from this deep dive. P6 gives you this incredibly powerful toolkit for structure, for measurement, for control, the absolute how of managing complexity. Indispensable.
Couldn't do these projects without it.
But maybe true mastery, especially for that senior planning engineer, isn't just about knowing every function in the software. Maybe it's also about recognizing when the rigid plan hits an unforeseen wall and you need to switch gears.
Switch to that more exploratory, open-ended mindset to tackle the truly novel problems that no schedule could fully predict.
Exactly. knowing when to follow the critical path and when to forge a new one, that's definitely something to think about.
Food for thought.
Indeed. Well, that's all the time we have for this deep dive. Thanks for navigating us through the complexities of P6.
My pleasure. It's a fascinating world.